schedule this year, I'd say our toughest road game will definitely be against WAC or Washington College. They had a great season last year, and I think that we can definitely bring it this year, and it'll be a tough game for both of us.
Conference road game for us, I guess I would have to follow up with Steph Umbach and say probably last year for us it was McDaniel. The length of the drive and the unpredictability of it was tough for us. Really, it really depends, it's a weekend or during the week or what other time of year it is, if the students have midterms. Those other factors that go into play usually contribute into the toughness of a road game. So it kind of depends, but for us last year, it definitely was McDaniel.
I hate to say it, but I think traveling back to Gettysburg might be toughest. Personally, for me, obviously, it being my alma mater, seeing all those familiar faces, I enjoy it. I get excited for it. But I think it's a tough place to play. Certainly, our team gets up for that game every year. But I think on the road, playing at G-Burg is a challenge.
I don't have a particular school in mind, but later weekday games are hard away. Off site, getting on the bus at, it's a 6 to 7 o'clock start, midweek in this conference, our kids are highly academic, so it's tough to get them to play in the moment, and they perform, but sometimes we have more success at home in those weekday games.
I don't think we see any road game tougher than the next. We kind of just go into every game. It's like another home game. Same dimensions of the field, goal, same number of players on the field. It's just another game.
I think F&M is probably the toughest road game we play. They always bring their A game when we play them, and every ball that we get, we fight for it every time, so it's always a good game.
I would say in my past 3 years here, Washington College has always been a huge game. It's come down to the wire, and it's when we have to travel there, it's far away. So it takes a lot to pump ourselves up in a 3-hour car ride, but it always is a very competitive game, so that's a challenging one.
We prepare all our games the same way. We're focusing on our game plan. We're focusing on what we need to do based on the preparation that we have had for that upcoming opponent. So we don't let the environment impact. We don't have control over that. What we have control over is our preparation, our preparedness of matchups, our game plan of the offense and defense we're going to use based on the opponent that we're playing. The environment shouldn't factor into our decision, much like we can't control the weather, we can't control where the game is played. So we don't let that be our focus. We just focus on preparing.
This year it's probably Washington College.
Well, the toughest one usually is, it's either going to be one of the away games. It's hard to go to Gettysburg. It's hard to go to Dickinson. Those are tough games because of the bus ride. We always play McDaniel, it seems, during the week, which is a tough one, and for some reason that's usually early. So those are the toughest ones, I think, on the road, mostly just because of their distance and obviously because they're competitive. But they're all competitive. But those would be the ones I would say.
I would have to say Washington College. It always comes on a Wednesday night. We're all tired after a long day of practice. It's like a 2-hour drive. Just going from a long day of classes to a really big drive and then getting off and having to play a game is always really tough on us. And then Washington College is always really good, so it's just a really tough game all around.
I would say Dickinson is always the biggest struggle for us. We go back and forth every year, so they just are really we just always have very competitive games with them. So it's a tough one.
I'd say Dickinson too. It's our furthest trip. It's a long bus ride, so that's always a factor in playing a big game.
I would have to say McDaniel. Something about that bus ride gets our team every time. Last year we played them twice. One regular season, it was scorching hot out. It was awful. And then we played them a week later in the first round of playoffs, and it was downpouring rain. So I don't know, just something about that bus ride.
I would say for me, probably McDaniel, just because of the sentiment of the game. Since I went there, it just has a different feel to it.
I would have to say either McDaniel or Washington College, just because they're so far.
The conference road game that's the toughest, this year. Only looking at this year is going to be Washington College for sure. So they're in the top 20, and they have a lot of returners. So it's going to be. It was a great game both times we played them last year. So it's going to be a tough road traveling 2 hours there on a Saturday. So looking forward to that challenge.
There's a couple. I mean, like I said, it's a very competitive conference. But I do think Gettysburg is one of our toughest road games. We really have to get in the right mindset, I mean, as we do for every game, but I would think that's our toughest road game.
For me personally, I think it is going back to Swarthmore and being, across the sideline from somebody who is my mentor, my friend, and kind of has been there for me personally and professionally, and with Karen. But on the other hand, it's a fun time to kind of go back there and play. We don't play on the same field anymore that we did a long time ago. But every road game is tough. Whether it's during the week or it's on the weekend. But there's not one school I think that's harder or easier to play in.